started. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming to our first sort of general meeting to talk about the Hingham Comprehensive Trails Plan. This is a plan, as many of you know, that was funded through CPA funds in a vote at town meeting last year. And we have been working diligently to get things underway, start gathering some information in the field, and then now come to you, our community, and say, what are the things that we need to be prioritizing to make sure that our trails and open spaces connect the way that we want them to, provide the amenities that we're looking for, and then protect the resources that we're really interested in making sure that we keep a handle on it, keep Hingham special. So I'm not going to talk too much. For folks who don't know me, my name is Abby Pearsall. I'm the conservation officer for the town. Allie is our consultant with BSC, and she'll be going through the majority of the presentation here, and just, we'll pick it over in just a sec. But if folks have questions along the way, you can certainly ask them. What we're going to try to do is get through the presentation. If there's quick questions at the end, then we'll certainly go for those. But a lot of what we want to do is be able to get to the point where we break up and have you kind of go around to the various maps and themes that we're asking you to give feedback on, and actually get your hands dirty and give us some information that we can work with. Just some basic housekeeping. If folks could make sure in the back, Ariana is in the back, she's one of our steering committee members, and she is going to be helping us make sure that everybody signs in, gives us a little bit of feedback on how you heard about the meeting, how we might be able to better get the word out. So we really want to hear from you on the best ways to get in touch with folks. We'd love to know from you if you think there are people who should be in the room that aren't. We want to get through to as many people as possible. So I know there might be some folks watching from home. Anybody who's interested in participating or knows somebody who might be interested, please get in touch with the Conservation Office, because we really, really want to hear from as many folks as we can. So with that, I will say we'll turn it over and we'll go from there.
Hey everybody. Did everybody sign in? And if not, can you make sure that you sign in before you leave, just so that we can keep track of who's attending and how to best reach you in case we need to further communicate with you or send you any additional invitations for the other public meetings, because there's a series of them. So like Abby said, my name is Allie and I work for BSC Group, and I've been the one that's been out on the trails kind of gathering all the information of what it is that you guys have here in Hingham, which is pretty amazing. But first I have to go through a couple of semi-boring slides just about the beginnings of the project and what we've done so far, and just a little introduction. So I'm going to be talking about a project overview, going over the timeline. It'll include information about the upcoming public meetings where we're going to be seeking additional input. The public outreach approach that we've chosen to follow through for this project, and this is where we would like also additional feedback in case the outreach that we're doing is not going to be working for you. Let us know what would work best so that we can get your input and your feedback. I also go over what I've done so far in terms of trail mapping, and then we are going to break out and talk about your individual input for all the individual subjects that are around the room, and I will explain how the maps are going to work and how we're going to be taking on feedback. So the project purpose and need, like Abby said, this sort of came up with the open space plan for the town. The town was able to acquire some funding, and with that funding we started the project. So these are some of the goals that were included in the open space plan that are going to be included in the Hingham Comprehensive Trail Plan. And you will see that these goals are the ones that are reflected around the wall, and this is what we're going to be seeking input on today. So we have protecting natural and cultural resources. We have enhancing some of the existing trails, assessing future opportunities for recreational areas in individual neighborhoods, and we really need your help figuring out what the neighborhoods are in Hingham. I already got some feedback and I started writing it on the map, but we need to know what you consider a neighborhood and what kind of recreational areas you would like to see in your neighborhood. You can even go as far as what kind of uses you would like to see in those recreational areas. Then we're going to be talking about developing connections between trails and publicly accessible commercial areas or public places, maybe schools, linking neighborhoods to schools through trails, linking neighborhoods to commercial areas through trails. And then we also want to talk about developing connections between existing trails and parks to each other. We have a lot of different clusters of parks throughout the town, and we want to see how we can best connect them, either by future property acquisition or with existing connectivity like sidewalks or parks or people's backyards if they allow it, that kind of thing. So the project planning. So we started off by holding a kickoff meeting with the town. And then we met with stakeholder groups, and the stakeholder groups that were represented included individuals from the horseback riding community, hiking, regular Hingham recreation. We had mountain bikers. We had, who else? Anybody here? We had our own group, the Hingham Trails group. Individuals concerned about protecting water resources, ACECs, protecting endangered species habitat. So we started collecting information. That information is actually, some of it is on the maps already. Then I went out into the field and started collecting a lot of the trail data. We have begun engaging the public, and that's why you guys are here. And we have a series of more additional community meetings and stakeholder groups. If you think that there's a stakeholder group out there that should be involved, like Abby said, just definitely let us know. Then assessing the existing trails and future potential. So that just means me going back out into the trails with the recommendations or your ideas and suggestions on the maps and trying to figure out how much of a possibility is it really on the ground to make these connections. And then we will be refining our goals and objectives and coming up with a nice little comprehensive trail plan that will be used by the town as well as the public, that will include mapping information for all the different properties, hopefully include uses and any kind of feedback that the Conservation Commission and the town of Hingham would like to see in that plan. So this is our project timeline. The project did begin in November. I was in the field November, December, January, and then Snowmageddon hit. And Snowmageddon is still out there here in Hingham. We have no snow in Worcester, but you guys have snow. So it looks like you don't have much snow, so I may be able to go back on the trails next week and finish up the initial assessment of the properties. Then we met with the stakeholder groups, and now we're at community meeting number 1. But as you can see, there's a series of other community input meetings and a series of other different things that are going to be happening in the development of this trail plan. And there are some, suggested dates on there that we can talk about whether or not that's going to work for the public. So what Hingham is going to get. So like I mentioned, you're going to get an editable comprehensive trail map. I said edible comprehensive trail map during our interview. A prioritization of future trail improvements and linkages, so that's for existing trails. A prioritization of future land acquisition for resource protection. You're going to get a couple of cost estimates for construction and maintenance for some of these links, and then some educational materials, and that will depend on the town's request. Now, we've been going through the process of trying to figure out what's the best way of engaging the public in this process. And so the town and the trail committee have tried to come up with different ideas, so it's going to be a multifaceted approach. We do have a website. Who's here seen the website? Yay, so there is a website. There's going to be a series of flyers and press releases, and I don't know if Abby wants to talk a little bit more in detail about what the town and the steering committee have been doing to try to reach out to the public.
Yeah, so some of the things that we've done, we have the website. There is a QR code, and the website is back there. You can also navigate to it from, there's the committee's page and the town website, but we're trying to get folks to go there. Ultimately, what we want to do is have a really sort of robust, interactive site that becomes kind of an outdoor recreational hub for the town, and working very closely with the Rec Commission and folks to make sure that that happens. But for now, the space we have is on the town website, and basically that's where you can go to find project updates and all that kind of stuff. We have been trying to get out with some posters and some different email lists and all that kind of stuff. But again, this is where we really need your feedback in terms of what's the best way to reach you and how can we reach some more folks that we might not have here tonight. Some of the other things that we are looking to do is conduct a survey based on some of the feedback we get tonight. We'll be trying to put together a survey that we have available before town meeting, so that folks, hopefully we could even bring it to town meeting and have an opportunity for folks to give us some feedback. So we'll see if that's an opportunity. And then we're trying to also go through a branding effort to sort of say, what is it that we want people to think of when they think of Hingham Trails? So one of the things that we have just got in the last hour and a half is a draft of the Hingham Trails logo. And there are some copies of it on that back table where you're going to be signing in and making sure you're giving us your feedback. And one of the things you can do is write down your thoughts and what you think about this. Does it speak to you? Do you think there are elements that we should consider? We want to make sure that this is something that represents Hingham Trails for a lot of people. When you see it, you want to think Hingham Trails. So that's kind of the overview, and I'll turn it back.
And so a little bit of an introduction to the trail mapping efforts. So some of the members of Hingham or Hingham residents have actually come out with me and GPS some of the trails. So It's a very slow process because you're trying to collect not only lines, but you also want to collect points. So every time there is a culvert, a bridge, a water bar, a sign, and there's many signs, a vista, a cultural resource, and that could include anything from a historic mill or a dam or a structure that I have no idea what it is, but I'll call it cultural just in case. Natural resources such as potential vernal pools, wetlands that kind of are along the trail or a little close to the trail, or the trail is in the wetland. Other natural resources that I've been collecting, invasive species, even though you don't really consider it, it is natural. So I have been trying to collect information about invasive species that are in clusters that could be manageable, just so that Abby can get some ideas for maybe getting some volunteers later in the future to try to do some invasive species management. Information also collected includes the trail condition, whether good, bad, fair. All the points also have conditions, whether good, bad, fair. The substrate, is it gravel, is it dirt, is it pavement? A lot of the roads within Bear Cove I ended up calling trails for the purposes of this project, just because they are used as trails. The only individuals that drive on it are the ranger and the animal warden, the state police. So I called them trails for this so that we could see all the connections. But once you look at that individual line, the information collected for that line will tell you it is 10 to 15 feet wide, is it good condition, and it's pavement. So there's more information within each point. This is kind of what some of the mapping may look like. So this is Moore Brewer, both sides of Moore Brewer. I don't even know if you would call it Moore Brewer at both sides, but I call it Moore Brewer at both sides. And you can see kind of like the little pizza-looking brown things are actually trail damage points, and we will update the point attributes that we use as a legend to make it more clear. But I wanted to show you guys this so that you can see the type of information that's collected. And if you click on each point, a box will show up and it'll give you the specifics about the individual points. So it's trail damage. It'll say what kind of trail damage, how long the trail damage is, how wide the trail damage is, how deep the trail damage is, if it's roots or ruts or anything. And then there's also information about intersection points. So you'll see an intersection with a number. It's kind of hard to see in this map, but it'll have a little yield sign with 3. That means it goes 3 ways. Or it'll be 4 ways. It includes gate information, trail access information from road intersections, trail gates, trail signs, all of that. Benches. The benches are really big on this map, which is interesting. And then there's natural features, and those are these little green trees that you really can't see, but these are little green trees right there. Yeah. So these are the parks that I've covered so far, and I know that I'm missing a few. So I still have to do Wordleberry Hollow, Jacobs Meadow, Marymount Road Conservation Area, the backside of the high school, Ear River Reservation. If I can find trails on the new Boy Scout property, that'd be great. I tried to find it and could not find it. And now I heard behind the Foster School off of Simmons Road, there's also trails. If you know of any trails that I'm missing that are Hingham property, please write the name of the property at the existing trail condition section, because I need to make sure that I'm covering everything that's accessible for the public here in Hingham. Now, did you guys know that you had that many open space properties with trails? Yes and no? Huh? That list is actually available there. Huh? Oh, it's going to be on TV, and probably the presentation will be posted on the website. There is a map in the back that's green, and it was made by the Hingham Open Space, the Land Conservation Trust, and that includes all the different parcels in Hingham. It's not fully updated, but it's in there. Also, the open space plan includes information about each individual property in Hingham, with information about entrances, what roads you can use to access the properties, and then someone had another comment. Yep?
Yeah, well, I think it looks like a segue to what you just said. What about parking? In other words,
I have parking also collected in the trail information. So parking is one of the points, and I kind of estimate how many cars you can fit. Not much parking out there. I mean, I park on the side of the road, and I'm like, you know. But there is some parking. For the major parks, they do have parking. But it will be recorded on the maps also.
But that's definitely something that we want to hear feedback on, is where do you want to access the parks? How would you get there? If you're not walking or riding a bike there on your own, then where would we, if we're looking at parking, where should we prioritize putting it?
Now, if this is making you want to go hiking, don't go to George Washington yet. They're undergoing some major tree removal efforts, and it's a little messy out there. The red pines are dying, and they're trying to get rid of them before they start falling on houses and people and all that other stuff. So the DPW is hard at work out there. So I would say go to the other properties first. It's still pretty, but it's, you know, messy. Yep.
Just for a list of properties we're talking about, Hingham, like Wampatuck Park, there, Whitney Woods, I don't see
Yep.
them there, am I missing it?
That's a DCR property. So this is Hingham-owned parcels. So you will see Wampatuck State Park already went through the GPSing through DCR, and they have been included on the maps. TTOR just also went through the GPSing of their trails, and they provided that information, so they've been added to the maps as well. We're waiting for information from
Norwell. So
Norwell.
we're looking at Norwell, Hull, Weymouth, Cohasset, trying to make sure that our neighboring towns, that we have anything that they are working on connecting to trails that they're building. We want to make sure that we're building a regional network as well. So we're working with the planners and conservation folks in each of those towns to bring in their information too.
All right, so this is what we have so far. And like I said, there's still properties missing. So these are the map, this is the map that's up on the wall. So this map includes the environmentally sensitive areas of Hingham. Now, how many of you knew that Hingham has endangered species in it? Raise your hand. All right. Endangered species, rare endangered species, priority habitat, that's what the state calls it, or estimated habitat. All right, so we have a darner, which is kind of like a dragonfly slash damselfly. We have a borer moth, a Spartina borer moth. You also have a sea beach dock, which is a plant on the beach, and you have eastern box turtles. You also have historic records for a milkweed, wood turtle, pale green orchid, the pied-billed grebe, and a buttercup. Historic records just mean that they haven't been seen in over 25 years. It doesn't mean that they're not there, they haven't been reported in 25 years. How many of you knew that you had two areas of critical environmental concern? All right, so you have two. One is the Ware River ACEC, and the other one is the Weymouth Back River ACEC. And this is just a designation that's given by the state for areas that have sensitive ecological and cultural historical things in it, resources in it. And it just allows an additional layer of protection when it comes through doing projects, big residential development type of projects. It triggers an additional, review under MIPA. I think I got it right? All right, awesome. You also have outstanding resource waters. You guys know what that is? Public water supply. So areas where water percolates and it becomes part of your public water supply. And this is all to the east and west of 228, so right in the middle of Hingham. You also have androgynous fish runs. You guys know what androgynous fish runs are? Heron runs, yeah. So fish that typically live in salt water but come in to spawn in fresh water. So you have, for the fish include heron, smelt, white perch, and tomcod. And these are included in the Ware River, Accord Brook, and the Fulling Mill Brook. So things to look for. Other things that are going to be included in the final plan are going to be information about Chapter 61 land, so lands that are under agricultural exemptions right now, that at some point will turn over, and the town has a right of first refusal for purchasing. So those are opportunities for purchasing for additional trail linkages. And the FEMA floodplains, which probably is all of Hingham. Yeah. Then the information that's also on the map includes, like I mentioned before, DCR's trail data layers, as well as TTOR, and Abby mentioned that the adjoining towns, anyone that has a trail data layer already developed, it's also going to be included, and this is just for the interconnectivity. On the maps, you'll see there's going to be a lot of purple. Purple means Hingham. Hingham property is all going to be in this fuchsia purple color. So if you don't see trails in that little area and you would like to see trails, write a little comment on the map.
Can we actually go through just some of the map elements? Because I think
Sure.
some folks have been. Can we talk about the blue lines and what
Yep.
folks are seeing versus the trail designations
Sure.
and that kind of stuff? Because
Yeah.
folks are looking at the blue lines as 228.
All right, so the blue lines, these lines, that kind of divide the map into more sections. That's something that we did in the office just to be able to zoom in and look at the information on GIS a little bit more easily. It's not subdivided in those sections anymore, so that was just for our purposes, so you can ignore those for now. In the future, when we start adding additional points and attributes and things are going to start getting really cluttered, we are probably going to be zooming into those quadrants, but we will refine them with the information that you provided. Like, we were just told that I split up the Ware River Reservation and that it should be all one piece, or the estuary area. So that's good to know, because then when I recreate the quadrants for more, to show more information in detail on them, I can follow those lines. So if you have any suggestions as to the quadrant should be here or there, definitely let us know. The red lines are DCR. You can't really see it very well. See? Red lines are DCR trails. Yellow lines are official Hingham trails. The blue lines are unofficial Hingham trails, and that was kind of more subjective on my part. If I went on a trail that looked like it was 1 to 3 feet wide and it wasn't very well used, I call that an unofficial trail. Or if it was a trail that led to someone's backyard, I would call it an unofficial trail. Places that I wouldn't think the public would want to go in general. However, there is this one trail that goes into aquarium property that would be nice if the public could go. Then we have, so the blues are the unofficials, and then we have these aquas. The aquas are the TTOR properties, the TTOR trails. Then these maps also include MBTA stops, so buses, trains, and the ferry. It includes 3 major commercial areas. I'm sure there's more. I didn't know which ones they were. So if you want to add those in that section, that would definitely be helpful. It also includes schools, because I think it's important to be able to provide connections between neighborhoods and schools, off-roads for the kids. And I think that's it. I think that those are all the individual. This map is a little bit more cluttered and confusing, and that's the map that we actually have for you to look at. The striped lines in orange are priority habitat, so that's where the rare and endangered species live. You also have the red lines right up here and here. Those are the ACEC. Then you have these yellow stars. Those are certified vernal pools. Certified or potential? Potential. And then the reds are the certified vernal pools. The green blobs are wetlands. And I think that's it. I think so. Does anybody have any questions about that stuff? The symbology? Yep.
Is it possible to get copies of that map so that one could look at it at another time or slowly?
Yep, what we can do is, as you're headed out, if you stick a little asterisk next to your name on the piece, or I can just email everybody if you want a PDF of the map. They're pretty big, so we're going to have to shrink them down before we send them out, but we can get that emailed to everybody who makes sure you get your email address on our list. And if folks are watching from home and want a copy, it'll be up on our website, or you can email the Conservation Office and get it as well.
Something else that I didn't include, trailheads by roads. So accessible points from main roads to get on the trails. And they're the little hiker guy, the green little hiker guy, and you'll see every map has that. So what I would say is avoid, if you end up going hiking, maybe avoid the blue until the town determines whether or not it'll call a trail official or an unofficial. So stick to the main trails. Just because it's easier to close the trail if people aren't using it and if the town decides to close it. A little bit, you should be saying that, not me. Yeah. So our next steps will be continuing to do outreach, continuing to seek input, reaching out to organizational partners. So if you know of individual groups like the NIMBAs, the AMCs, or even the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, EMS, REI, they all do hikes, they all do volunteer activities, they also provide funding, they provide environmental stewardship opportunities for the public. If you know you have contacts, definitely share those contacts with Abby, because these are things that we're going to be looking for in the future. Because, you know, to maintain trails, you need funding, you need tools, you need individuals that are willing to get trained to do it properly. The same to build new trails, or to certify pools, or to do anything that the public wants to do within the parameters of the comprehensive trail plan. So the individual public input that we are going to be seeking today is an overall feedback, like I said. So if you don't like where the quadrants are drawn, definitely let us know so we can redraw them. Information about missing properties that I haven't done trail delineation on, you can also give us that information. Anything about the maps, like if you would like to see more roads, less road, maybe have it on a topo versus an aerial, things that would make it easier for you to visualize the trail network within Hingham. And then specific feedback, we're going to be looking at natural and cultural resource protection. So like I had mentioned before, this can include anything if you're interested, if you know where there's a cluster of invasive species and you're interested in managing it, you can write it down there. Or if you know about cultural resources that are covered in invasive species, which there are a few that you kind of have to creep under. It was good to do this in the wintertime because you could actually see some of the rock foundations that are out there. So, let us know. Vernal pool certification. If you know where the andronymous fish fronts are, whether they need improvement, you can tag those on the map. Anything else related to cultural and natural on that side. Then we have enhancing existing trails. So that is places that that, again, missing trails or trails are actually official, not unofficial like I designated them. Areas that you would like to see the potential for ADA trails within some of the parks. Interpretive trails, that sort of thing. There's actually one trail that has an interpretive trail on it, one park, and it's over by Plymouth River Complex behind the elementary school. Has anybody been back there before? They have these nice pictures, and they talk about the coyote and the snakes, and yeah, it's very nice, and the red-tailed hawk. It's not accessible, though. That's a good potential for making it accessible, and it's trail blazing, trail marking, trail intersection markers, things that you would like to see just to make your trail experience better when you're out there. Then we have recreational areas within neighborhoods. Like I mentioned before, none of us are from Hingham, so we don't really have a good understanding of which neighborhoods are called what and where are they. So definitely starting to draw those in the maps is important because one of the open space goals was to make sure that there are recreational areas for each neighborhood to be able to enjoy and take care of and kind of create environmental stewardship. Then we have connecting commercial residential areas to trails and open space. And then we have connecting trails and open space for recreational purposes. And the reason why I divided this is because I know there's going to be a lot of feedback for these two. So it was just easier to say recreation. That one can be more like commuting, walking to school, walking to the commercial areas, walking to the T, walking to the ferry, that kind of thing. Or biking. Trail uses that you would like to see, maybe put in an existing trail. So if you have ideas of where would you like to see mountain bikes, not see mountain bikes, see horses, not see horses, not see hikers, which is an interesting one for natural cultural resource protection, you can include that on the existing trails. Canoe portages, existing trails. Yep. So I already started with some of the maps. You will see that there's these little sticky flags on them with numbers, and the numbers correspond to information on the pads. That information was either acquired through the open space recreational plan for the town or through stakeholder input or steering committee input. So I just started it just so that you could get a little bit of an understanding of how this is going to be, how it's going to work out. So make sure that if you put a flag down, that it has a number and that someone's taking notes on that number, because then I don't want to have any floating numbers with no information and then I'm trying to figure out what it corresponds to. So the more that you can provide, in a brief statement, the better. If you have a lot of information, maybe it's something that we can get the feedback in an alternative manner.
And to that end, we'll have a couple of people stationed for you at each of these stations. So when we get up to walk around, folks who have been working through the open space committee working group that we have established, and our consultants are going to be kind of spread out. So you'll be able to talk to staff, to talk to consultants, to talk to folks who have been volunteering their time already, and they'll be making sure that we capture all the information. We also have some pads around, so if you're finding that you're pressed for time and you need to run, but you want to make sure we catch it, you can also pull a marker and write on the pads at those different stations as well.
So what the goal for all of this is to get as much information as we can from you guys for this first step. So this is the first overall looking at the general idea, the general picture, what we want to make sure that is included in this trail plan, what we want to make sure that we're covering in the trail assessment. Remember, there's going to be 2 or 3 additional public meetings where we're going to be a little bit more detailed about the information that we're collecting and some of the recommendations that are being made. So feel free to add as much as you want. And then, if you don't get to, provide your comments and feedback, or if you think of something on the drive home, like you drive by somewhere and you're like, oh, you know what? The little trail crossing guy on the roads, when there's connections between like Marciani Farms and the South Middle School, it would be great to have a little trail crossing guy there, because if you park over by the tennis courts, you want to make sure you can make it safely over, or striped. I think the road is actually striped, but there's no sign. So things like that just randomly come up to you. It's email Abby. Or Abby's office.
Email Abby.
Or Abby's office. Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited to hear from you. And, again, if there's, specific areas that you want us to come out and look at, we can make time for me to be out there and walk the neighborhood. If there's a specific area that you want me to see, that we want to include, just call us, because we want to make sure that we get everything that we can. We're not going to be coming, once we break up here, we're not going to be coming back together. So, certainly feel free to give your feedback, stay as long as you'd like, but then there's no formal close. So just remember on your way out to make sure you visit the back table for a goodbye, make sure you have all your information for us, and we should be good. So.
Any general remarks, comments, questions? Yep.
I want to give them an overview of what they're going to receive at the end, that they will be able to access this on their smartphone or what have you, and what your goals were for accessing this.
Well, the town's going to get all the information. So the town's going to get comprehensive, what? So she wants me to explain what it is that the town's going to get at the end of this. That's usable, something that's tangible that you go out on the trails and you can use. So all the information that we've collected is going to go to the town. Now, it's up to the town to determine whether or not they want to put it on MassGIS, where all the DCR layer is on, the data layer information is on, so that you can even look at all the trail connections on MassGIS, or they can do it through different apps, different other ways of showing it on the website. We are also going to be providing the town with an actual plan that fleshes out all of the things that we're talking about at this meeting and at future public meetings. So the trail linkage information, the prioritization, how the prioritization was made, information about the culture and natural resources. So it's going to be similar to the open space plan, because a lot of that information is in there already, but a little bit more detailed with feedback from the ground truthing that has been done throughout the winter and now in the spring.
So this plan will provide us with the information. Ultimately, what we'd like to do is have a centralized place. And if we think about sort of the big picture of this project, the goal is to connect people to places and to really keep that message alive throughout the course of this entire experience. And so, what we're looking at is talking about an overarching recreation map where we take all of our recreational resources. If somebody comes to Hingham, is going to be visiting Hingham for their summer vacation or whenever it is, they can come and say, okay, well, where can I go? I like to do these kinds of things. Where can I go to find those types of activities? So we'll be pulling together ultimately a website that will do that. So this plan will help us inform that website project. And then as part of that, our ultimate goal is also to have sort of a phone, smartphone, tablet compatible feature that would allow you, sort of as you're walking, to be able to pull something up and say, okay, I'm at number 1 on the map, and that means I'm at Moore Brewer, and these are the trails in Moore Brewer, and here's where I am. So how that ultimately looks is something that we want your feedback on, so that the concept is out there, but we're going to need your ideas to make sure it works and that it's usable. So as we get closer to that end product, we'll be asking for more of that feedback.
Other questions, general comments? Great. All right. Split up into groups.